Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.
The Dance of Dragons, a true telling by Grandmaster Munkin, being a history of the war of Targaryen succession between the Princess Rhaenyra and Aegon, second of his name, that nearly destroyed the realm.
The Dance of the Dragons. A stupid name for a Targaryen civil war where my ancestors danced away my birthright. Before the war, House Targaryen counted 18 dragons. By the end, we had 2, and nearly as few Targaryens. We would never be as powerful or as feared again. The dance began, as many dances do, with an old man and a young girl. The queen had failed to produce a son for her king, so he anointed his daughter, the Princess Rhaenyra, as his heir. But years later, the king remarried, and his new wife, Queen Alicent of House Hightower, gave him a son. Feeble and foolish, the old king refused to change the succession. He didn't even see how his court had split into 2 rival camps of blacks and greens, after the dresses that the princess and the queen had worn to some tourney.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honor must pay its price. North owes a great duty to the 7 kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark. But my ancestor, Torrhen Stark, began a tradition by making an offering at the onset of winter. 1 in 10 men from our household was to be chosen to fortify the watch. This is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North. Even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming indeed, ladies and gentlemen, in the form of the Winter Wolves of House Stark. And I know I am not alone when I say I cannot wait to see these Winter Wolves return. House Stark, of course, is my favorite house. I know they don't have a huge part to play in the Dance of the Dragons, but the parts that they do play are absolutely glorious. And we are going to see some of the probably heavy fan favorite characters in Season 3. I don't know how much they're going to flesh the Winter Wolves out in this finale. It might just be an introduction. But I do get the feeling these are going to be some heavily fan-favorited characters in Season 3. In particular, Roddy the Ruin. You guys are going to love Roddy the Ruin, and book readers know exactly what I am talking about. But welcome one, welcome all. It's hard to believe this is the final episode. I mean, I know I say it every week, but man, it feels like just yesterday that the season was starting, and here we are about to see the conclusion. It's gone by quick. It whipped by, I must say. This season has been whipping by. And hell yes, Team Grey Beard, as my co-host points out. Ravener, if you want to pop in, my friend, you have the link. Yeah, winter is coming, Ando. Winter is coming in the form of House Stark. Yes, King Scotto, let's go. Let's go. I know Greek Girl is ready. Hell yes, love it, love it. I know Divine Chakra is definitely ready. loving these banger live stream intros. Well, thank you for that, my friend. I tried to make them fun, tried to throw some stuff in there that I know a lot of the die-hard Game of Thrones fans will definitely recognize. So thank you, my friend. We try to have some fun here. We try to have some fun. But again, welcome everybody. I hope you guys are ready because the season 2 finale is less than 2 hours away now, and we are going to hang out over the next hour and a half or so and kill some time while we wait for the finale to load up on HBO and say goodbye to season 2 of House of the Dragon as we begin the very long wait for season 3, but hopefully not as long as we waited for season 2. It's nice that they have already greenlit season 3. They're already working on pre-production for season 3. So hopefully it won't be a full year and a half, 2-year wait in between this season. Hopefully they can get it out a little bit sooner. But either way, we are going to be diving into all things House of the Dragon tonight, and I definitely want to hear from each and every one of you guys in the chat as well. What are you expecting from this finale? Where do you expect season 2 will end off on? Will we get any more big events in this in this last episode? Excuse me. What exactly can we expect from the finale? I cannot wait to see. I am looking forward to seeing where this season is going to end. I've been trying so hard to stay away from all the leaks that came out, and I've been pretty successful in staying away from the leaks, I must say. I didn't really have anything too big spoiled for me from the leaks, which is great. But we are all going to find out here in less than 2 hours from now anyway. Leaks or not, the episode is coming, ladies and gents. The episode is coming. And yeah, I want to hear from each and every one of you. But first, we got to see who is in this awesome, awesome chat. Let me scroll up here a little bit. Let me see who I can see. Welcome one, welcome all. Zaldrizas Bosgari Ixos.or. Yes, Ando, a dragon is not a slave. A dragon is not a slave. We got Kiwi Skirt in the house. What is up, Kiwi Skirt? Good to see you, my friend. Hey, peeps. Fingers crossed for a good end to the season. I'm hoping so. I really hope the season ends on a high note, for sure. It looks like they have been setting up some very interesting and pretty big book events over the last few episodes. I'm not sure if we'll get any of them in the finale, but if not, we definitely are going to have a very, very interesting start to our 3rd season with all of the massive events that they are setting up. And who knows, maybe we'll see some of these events in the final episode. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I guess we shall find out. We got Abraxas in the house. What is up, Abraxas? We got Strega. What is up, Strega? Good to see you. Is this also going to be a watch party? I am not too sure yet. I have to check with Kiwi. We usually do a live watch party right in the Discord, but I'm sure Kiwi will let us know if she's able to do that this evening. I know she does it when she's able to, but I don't just want to expect it from her every week, you know? But if she is able to do it this week, I'm sure she will let us know in the chat if the live watch party is on. I guess we shall find out. We shall find out. But if it is on, of course, everybody is welcome to join. We turn away nobody, whether you're Team Black, Team Green, or you're Team Dragon or Team Stark like myself. Everybody is welcome in our watch parties. Everybody is welcome. See what else we got. We got Leo V in the house. What is up, Leo V? Hope they give us a bonus episode, please. I would love that too. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, a bonus episode would certainly be appreciated. I mean, maybe it's because we only had 8 episodes this season. Maybe that's why it feels like it's just going by so fast. But yeah, I mean, it feels like just yesterday the season was starting, and here we are. It's ending. Here we are about to see its end. We got Jason Moore in the house. What is up, Jason Moore? Good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Caitlin in the house as well. What is up, Caitlin? Always good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Got Greek Girl in the house. Hey, chat. So pumped. Winter is finally coming. It is. It is, Greek Girl. The Winter Wolves are officially coming. And I know all my House Stark fans, I know, are super excited about that, as I am myself. As I said, I am a House Stark loyalist to the end. We got Rockers in the house. What is up, Rockers? Good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we got a super chat from Strega. Thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yay, let's watch the finale together. Thanks, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much for that. You guys have been so supportive this year throughout the streams and all the videos. The least we can do is try and hang out every once in a while and have some fun watch parties. I've been getting a lot of requests to do, after House of the Dragon Season 2 ends, I have been getting a lot of requests to do a Game of Thrones rewatch party, and we're going to try and set that up. We're going to try and see if we can do a Game of Thrones Season 1 rewatch party. Season 1 will always be my favorite season, personally. It is the closest to, it's the most accurate adaptation, I guess, out of all of the books. That first season is very, very, very close adaptation and very faithful, and even improves on it in some cases. So we are going to try and line up a Game of Thrones Season 1 rewatch party in the Discord after House of the Dragon ends, while we wait for From Season 3 to begin. And I know I've been screaming it from the rooftops, but definitely get out there and check out From Seasons 1 and 2 if you haven't already. That is going to be the next big show that we are going to be covering here on the channel. And Season 3 starts September 22nd. So you guys got plenty of time to catch up on From if you so choose. But thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. We got the Grumble Door in the house. What is up, Grumble Door? Good to see you. We got Barbara in the house as well. What is up, Barbara Webb? Tuning in from Texas. My good friend Barbara from Texas. Awesome. It's always fun to see where you guys are tuning in from. I love that. I love that. What time does the show come on? The show is set to air in around 1 hour and 45 minutes from now. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the show officially kicks off on HBO Max and on HBO. So yeah, we are about an hour and 45 minutes away now. An hour and 45 minutes away. There it is, 9 p.m. Eastern, as Ando is letting us know. Hell yes. Hell yes. Zeke for Bleak, I am so excited, but I don't want the season to end. I know, again, I mean, it's crazy how fast it whipped by. It sucks. It sucks that this is the last episode, and then we're probably going to have a decent wait until Season 3 comes around. But at least we do have Dunk and Egg to look forward to in between Seasons 2 and 3 of House of the Dragon. Dunk and Egg has been currently filming for the last few weeks, and it's going very, very swimmingly from what I hear from behind the scenes. And we are going to get that one probably pretty early in 2025, maybe spring 2025, the latest. We will probably have Dunk and Egg hitting our screen. So we do have some awesome Game of Thrones spinoffs to look forward to in between Seasons 2 and 3. And I think people are going to really like Dunk and Egg. It's a totally different change of pace from the Game of Thrones series that we have gotten up until this point. Dunk and Egg has no dragons, no real big magical elements to it or anything like that. It's just a good old-fashioned story, a really good character study, if anything, centered around these two characters, Dunk and Egg. And I think people are going to really, really love those characters when they get introduced to them, for sure. I'm looking forward to Dunk and Egg. Looking forward to Dunk the Lunk. We got ACC in the house. What is up, ACC? Good to see you as well, my friend. We got Rip the Dodo Birds. Welcome, Rip the Dodo Birds. I hope you are doing well. Hope everybody is doing well this evening. Getting ready to dive into the final episode. Final episode. As Naemon Targaryen says, let's go, Stark on the march. Yes, House Stark is on the march. The Winter Wolves are coming. And we're going to get some interesting scenes in this finale. ACC wants to see some Sheepstealer action, and maybe we might. Maybe we might actually see some Sheepstealer in this final episode. They have been teasing Sheepstealer very heavily over the last 2 episodes or so. And maybe maybe that setup will pay off in this finale. Maybe it will. Got BB in the house. What is up, BB? Good to see you as well. Got the Rogue Prince in the building. What is up, Rogue Prince? Always good to see you as well, my friend. Loving the live stream. Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that. Very much appreciate all you guys taking some time out of what I'm sure is a very busy day to come and hang out with us for a little bit. I very much appreciate that. I very much appreciate that. No, I'm not ready for another 2-year wait, says crazy description. I know, my friend, I'm not either. That's why I'm really hoping it's not going to be quite as long. I'm certainly anticipating a decent wait in between Seasons 2 and 3. But since they got a much earlier jump on starting season 3 compared to starting season 2, maybe we won't have to wait quite as long. It's still going to be a good year and a half maybe, but hopefully it's not going to be a whole 2-year wait. Hopefully they can get it done a little bit quicker than that. And welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Thank you.
Friend.
Thank you. It's kind of unexpected, but I figured, man, if there's ever a time to do a drop in, this would be the time. The finale episode.
Yes.
Heard some crazy things. For those who didn't know, there was a leak. I guess there's a third party, like when they do the translations and stuff and the subtitles.
An international third party distributor accidentally leaked half of the freaking episode in out of context clips, apparently.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Yeah. Some jive turkey.
That's the thing. I mean, doesn't this seem to happen for almost every Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon season? If anyone was around during the Game of Thrones days, this sort of thing happened for almost every single finale when you got to around seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8. Every single year, for some reason, episodes were always getting leaked. I remember in season 7 in particular, the final 2 episodes were leaked. Episode 9 and 10 both were leaked online like a week before they were supposed to come out. So this is definitely something that HBO has been having a problem with for a very long time now. They seem to have a lot of security leaks here and there, whether it's through third-party distributors or early access reviewers. It's been a leaky ship. This is not the first time this has happened.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, I mean, this is so high profile, so many millions upon millions of fans and people that are so passionate about it. That clout, man, it's seductive, and if you can be the guy, I mean, they'll, maybe they don't want to be, maybe they don't want to be a translator, maybe they don't see a long term, doing it in the long term. Why wouldn't you? You could be a hero in your little circle, at least. That's my guess, totally, a complete, nothing but a pure speculation guess why somebody would do that. But man, you could be the guy, hey, check this out. I just leaked, then again, you can't really take credit for it because HBO.
They're going to bring down the hammer time when it comes to suing you into oblivion. And HBO lawyers have tons of resources behind them. That's not a fight I would want to take. That's for sure. The clout is not worth the squeeze. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, as they say.
Right.
But yeah, it's very funny though. It's definitely something that they have had a problem with for many, many years now. These leaks always tend to happen. It's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I think we will get all the pieces set up on the board, says Joe Chapman. And I get the feeling that's probably where this season is going to end as well. They have been setting up some pretty big events. Now, obviously, they're not going to be able to shove all of these big events into one finale in terms of setting up the Battle of the Red Fork, setting up the Battle of the Gullet, potentially Fall of King's Landing. There's tons of events that they have been heavily foreshadowing. And obviously, we're not going to get them all this season. But I do think, as you said, yes, they're setting up a lot of really big pieces for pretty early season 3. I wouldn't be too surprised if we get a similar format to what we got with season 2, where season 2 started off with a huge book moment in Blood and Cheese. So I wouldn't be too surprised if every season starts off with like a major big event. The way that they're setting things up right now, season 3 could very well start with the Battle of the Gullet. Even they're very much heading in that direction. So yeah, maybe every season finale will have some kind of big book moment to kick the season off on.
Yeah, and we're seeing. I mean, if you're a book reader, you're real. I mean, I've kind of given up on that. About how closely they're corresponding to the book in the show. Yeah, and at this point, I'm kind of looking for. There are key moments that you cannot not put in. If you're whether you're
like
whether
the
you
Winter Wolf saying we've come to die for the Dragon Queen. I swear, if we do not get that line, I'm going to be butthurt.
Yep. And there are a few key lines that we have to see, a few key scenes that we have to see, battles and whatnot, that I don't think the fandom would just accept, them doing it in a half measure. So they will have to do that. But at this point, I almost consider anything from the book, even those key scenes, to be very much Easter eggs rather than something that I should really put a whole lot of weight. Exactly. I don't want to invest a whole lot of my heart into it because anybody who's read a George Martin book knows. I mean, we saw that with Rhaenys. She was kind of a putz at the end of season 1. coming up through through the floor of the dragon pit. But then she started getting some really key, awesome dialogue, and she had
Great
some
dialogue. Yeah.
pivotal impacts on multiple characters, on Corlys, on Rhaenyra. Just again and again, you're like, wow, man, they're really doing her right. And then she's dead.
And then she's gone. Yeah. And you make a really good point. I mean, especially when you consider how Rhaenys and Rhaenyra kind of really started off their relationship in season 1, kind of really not being enemies, but Rhaenys had no love for Rhaenyra, was dead set that Rhaenyra had her son killed, even. And then you can slowly start to see Rhaenys starts to, and Rhaenyra start to build a little bit more of a connection, to the point where right before she goes out, Rhaenys was pretty much Rhaenyra's, strongest advisor and almost her closest confidant at that point. So it was interesting to see the kind of journey that they went on, from really distrusting each other at first to really becoming one of the people that Rhaenyra trusted the most. And Rhaenys had no respect for Rhaenyra. If you remember back to the season finale in season 1, Rhaenys was literally the only one who did not bend the knee when Daemon crowned Rhaenyra in her coronation. Rhaenys was the only freaking one that stood standing up. She did not bend the knee. So it's very interesting to see how that relationship kind of progressed and how it ultimately ended. But I think Rhaenyra is going to be missing Rhaenys over these next few episodes and seasons, considering how heavy things are about to get. And I love that. I'd love to ask you this question, and everybody in the chat as well. This has been a big question that a lot of us have been wondering throughout all of season 2. Do you think this episode will be the Gullet? And I get the feeling it's going to be half of the Gullet. And what I mean by that is I think they're going to set up the Battle of the Gullet, with the actual battle itself coming pretty early on in season 3. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised. I know I've been saying this a lot, but I wouldn't be too surprised if season 2 ended on a note where maybe the Triarchy intercepts the ship, the gay abandoned ship that young Aegon and young Viserys are on. I wouldn't be too surprised if season 2 ended on some kind of cliffhanger like that, where it ends with just the ship getting intercepted, perfectly setting up the actual battle to happen early in season 3.
Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't.
See the battle. You think we'll see the actual battle this episode?
No, I would put it 0% chance. That would be my guess. And again, guys, I have not seen. I deliberately avoided not only viewing the leaks. I didn't even look at really the discussion of it, just because I didn't want to know. Yeah. But my guess for the ending, I mean, they brought in the Lannisters like 2 or 3 episodes ago. Oh, actually, it was episode 5, because it's right after the Great One. They introduced the idea of the Lannister host moving towards the Riverlands, and then didn't do shit with it for another 2 episodes. So I think that we're going to get Red Fork. I think they're going to move that. Now, what you're talking about. See, the other thing is, I was always doubtful that when they talked about hiring ships from the Triarchy in the book, and again, that was back when I tried to correspond things to the book. It took them a long time, because they said, the Triarchy was 33 horses pulling in each in a different direction.
In different directions,
yeah. Because there's each of the 3 cities had 11 representatives, and they each had their own goals and advantages that they were striving for. So it took a long time for them just to even convene, much less start discussing anything substantive about providing ships. So in the book, at least, it took a long time. This one, the way they've aged up people, the way they've aged up dragons, the way they've kind of moved things,
and aged down dragons in some case, especially for the Battle of the Gullet. I get the feeling the Gullet is probably going to be a little bit different, considering how much they have aged down Stormcloud and Aegon III.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is true. I was thinking more in terms of Tessarion, and some of the other ones that they've aged, and what was Baela's? Moon Dancer.
They aged up Moon Dancer a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was one thing they said early on. They were going to try and get the quote unquote children of the dance involved a little bit earlier on the show than they are in the book. And we have seen that kind of be on 2 different spectrums, where some characters, they're aging up and kind of advancing a little bit, and some they've completely aged down, like Viserys and Aegon. Because Aegon is doesn't have really a vital role, but definitely has a decent role in the Battle of the Gullet, in terms of how Rhaenyra and Jace even find out about the Battle of the Gullet, with what he does, in terms of he's actually the one who carries that news to Jace and Rhaenyra. So I wonder how that's going to differ on the show, considering that dragon is nowhere near big enough to ride at this point on the show.
And like the two Valarian bastards are like 13 and 15 in the book.
Yeah.
That guy does not look. Alan
30
doesn't
on the
look
show.
13.
Yeah, they're like 30 on the show. And yeah, this is something that Game of Thrones did as well. They would kind of age up or age down characters every once in a while, just to maybe make the story a little bit more cohesive in some areas. And I get it. Not everything translates 100% from book to screen. There are some things that just don't translate. But no, some of the characters that they have chosen to age up and age down has been pretty interesting, and it has been leaving me wondering exactly how things like the Battle of the Gullet are going to change now that Aegon probably won't play the exact same role that he did in the books. But I'm right there with you as well in terms of I'm trying to get to the point where I'm not always comparing the show to the book. I mean, I get it's a natural, especially for book readers, it's kind of just natural to compare the show to the book. The book is the source material at the end of the day. But at this point, they really are two totally different stories at this point. So like you, I'm very much trying to kind of just take the show on face value and I'm trying not to always just compare it to the book and just kind of let the show breathe. So I'm definitely trying to get there as well. It's hard. I mean, it's tough being a staunch book reader and a heavy book fan. Sometimes it's hard to separate the two. I'm fully capable of admitting that. But yeah, I've definitely been trying to do that as well, trying to take the show on face value and not always just comparing it to the books. But there's nothing wrong with to compare it to the books as well. If you guys want to compare it to the books, definitely don't let anybody tell you that is wrong.
Yeah, your prepared video that you did, I think it was just yesterday morning. It was actually, I really enjoyed it because, I mean, normally I know you avoid spoiling and whatnot, but I for some reason or another, and I'm not sure I don't even remember exactly the topic, but I was surprised at the amount of, I mean, you really went down the line about what happens in the book. I was like, wow, okay. You just laid it out there. I was like, okay, yeah, okay. And that's good. I mean, it's a good reference. I mean, that's when you really don't believe that the show is going to provide any of that. You get a little freer about discussing what is in the book because we don't think that it's going to actually be reflected in the show. So you're not spoiling the show in any kind of way.
That's right. Anytime I do videos like that, I always make sure to put up a spoiler warning ahead, like book spoilers ahead. And I try to make sure I specifically say book spoilers because just because something happened in the book, as we've seen, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen the same way in the show. So yeah, whenever I do some of those kind of more book spoilery videos, I try to always at least make sure people know that this is going to have some heavy book spoilers, but this is book spoilers only, not show spoilers. Because sometimes it's hard to separate the two as a fan, but they are two different canons at the end of the day. George and Ryan have confirmed that multiple times. The show is the show canon. The book is the book canon. They are two totally different worlds at this point. And I'm definitely learning and starting to be a little bit better at just taking House of the Dragon on face value and not constantly kind of running back to the books and comparing the two. But I'm trying. I am only human.
And George, I mean, it doesn't look like George is entirely 100%, delighted with everything. But sometimes when you release the reins to somebody else, you kind of, you lose the right to complain. But real quick, I will say that I do agree that we might see the setup for the Gullet, and I'm just visually what I think would be a badass thing is, we might have an early scene in the episode talking to the Triarchy, yada yada. Meanwhile, and then we got to check in with Alan. We got to check in with what's the other one? I forgot him.
Alan and
Adam. We got to check in with those two, like we always do. You got to check in with Ulf, and especially since they're the newly minted Dragonseeds. But I think as the finale, the cliffhanger for the end of the season, I think we're gonna be on boats out in the Gullet somewhere, and then we're gonna see a bunch of masts coming up over the horizon, which are the Triarchy ships, and that's where they're gonna cut it off. That'll be my guess.
Yeah, and we've actually even seen a potential exact shot even that might even represent or convey that exact thing.
Really?
If we look at the trailer for episode 8, there's this shot right here. And I wouldn't be too surprised if this is maybe the gay abandon running right into the Triarchy.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a very interesting shot. I mean, it's really hard to tell any of the banners on the ships. It's very blurry. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if this could potentially be the coming of the Triarchy maybe. But I guess we'll find out.
Guess we shall find out. Cabbages and carrots and
Yeah. And yes, were book spoilers a big thing in early Game of Thrones seasons? Yeah, they were. I mean, there was when Game of Thrones first started out, there was very much kind of two different camps, it seemed. There were the book readers, and then there were the people that were just watching the show. And at times, I'll fully admit it, at times, sometimes the book readers could be, not snobby at times, but they would always try to kind of wield their superior knowledge over people that were just watching the show. That was definitely like a heavy aspect of those early Game of Thrones seasons, where book readers would always kind of drop their, knowledge that nobody else knew. I always tried to avoid that kind of mentality myself, just because I know a lot of people that are watching these shows probably haven't read the books. I think the book readers are probably a smaller majority as opposed to people that are just watching the show, considering how worldwide the show is. So yes, in the early Game of Thrones days, book spoilers were all over the place in terms of what was going to happen next. Because Game of Thrones, at least for the first 3 or 4 seasons or so, it remained pretty faithful to the books in terms of hitting all of the major big events. So yes, if you did read the books while you were watching Game of Thrones, you kind of knew all of the big things that were going to be coming in terms of, the beheading of Ned, the Red Wedding, things like that. Book readers kind of knew those things were on the way. So yeah, the spoilers were all over the place when Game of Thrones was on, all over the place. They were all over the place. Yeah, and Ando got spoiled for the Red Wedding. Oh, that must have sucked, my friend. That must have sucked. Because I remember watching that episode, The Red Wedding. I was actually at a watch party with a bunch of my friends, and I was the only one there that had read the books at that point, so nobody knew what was coming. So I just remember looking around the room like, oh man, these guys are going to be freaking devastated by the time this episode ends, because they were all heavy House Stark fans like I am. And just to see the reaction on a lot of people's faces who haven't read the book when the Red Wedding happened, it was, it was even worse than the death of Ned, because it was so unexpected. You'd think, okay, they killed off Ned. There's no way they're going to kill off Robb too. Robb is going to be the one to avenge his father's death. And then boom, they just completely pull the rug out from underneath your feet. It hit hard. It hit very hard when that episode ended.
And you could see it happening. I mean, if you knew, you could see it happening. When they started playing the Reigns of Castamere
music. As soon as I hear that music, I'm like, no, they're really doing it. They're really doing it. Because part of me even had a small hope, like maybe they won't kill Robb. Maybe they'll go a different direction. As soon as I heard that music, though, I was like, okay, they're doing this. They're doing this right now.
Yeah. Then they cut away to like the outside when the guys in the tents were getting in, and then they went right back inside, and then you're like, oh my god, well they got Robb, then they got Caitlyn. Then they got his new wife. It was like, holy moly. And you're like, what happened? It catches you off guard. And I still remember entirely distinctly the death of Ned. And this is a book reader, I'm just cruising along in the book, and it's like, okay, a little different, than that was my first exposure to George Martin's fantasy style. So I was like, okay, well, it's a little coarse, a little rough, a little gritty. That's fine. Cruising along. And then it got to the cutting off Ned's head. And I was like, I literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I paged back looking to see if like he might just be severely injured or something, something got in the way that I went too fast and I just thought his head got covered.
Someone gonna get up there and save him right in the last minute. Like that's what a lot of people are thinking. Like, oh, there's no way they're gonna really do this. They saw Arya in the crowd with the Night's Watchman, and I think a lot of people were thinking they were gonna run up there and save him. No, not that kind of show.
I could not believe it. It was a gut punch. It really was. And it's like, wow. And then, gradually you get accustomed to it with him. Anytime you have any kind of affinity towards a character, anytime a character is good or upright or just or honest, they're usually not long for the world. I think a lot of people. No, not at all. That's why you'd see, like, if Tyrion dies, we riot and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely a gut punch, and it definitely kind of came out of nowhere if you hadn't read the books. And again, like, even though I had read the books and I was kind of sort of expecting it, there was that small part of me that thought maybe they won't do it. But yeah, like you said, as soon as we heard that music, I knew it was coming. Misty asks, are the Triarchy going to be like the Golden Company, coming in screaming and ball slapping until they see a dragon attack? Honestly, it's going to kind of be a little similar to that, yes. The Triarchy will come in with a pretty good entrance, but the force that the Triarchy comes up against in terms of the dragons that Rhaenyra, deploys into that battle, it's going to be savage. It's going to be absolutely savage. So yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see a grand entrance for the Triarchy and then seeing them kind of limp back home with a fraction of their ships left at that point. I wouldn't be too surprised if we see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Host people freaking out and yelling at the TV. Yeah, I remember. I mean, that's really how it was. There were people yelling at the freaking TV, like just devastated watching poor Robb. And not even so much Robb. Robb was devastating, but seeing what happened to his wife as well, that was what shocked me as a book reader, because that part is not in the book. In the book, when the Red Wedding happens, Robb doesn't even bring his wife to the twins. She actually survives that whole ordeal. She doesn't even go to that wedding with Robb in the book. So that was one of the things that kind of shocked me about the show. I was like, wow, they brought her to the Red Wedding, and then seeing how savagely they take her out with the unborn child and all that. That was probably the part that shocked me even more than Robb. I was kind of expecting Robb. I was not expecting that, because that was a total change from the book.
Yeah, but at least, as a byproduct of the Red Wedding, we did get Lady Stoneheart, which we spent so much time learning and loving, right? Lady Stoneheart was what Caitlyn became. She was like an undead kind of creature type thing, but she had her own band of followers and whatnot. But they didn't pursue that at all in the show.
Not at all. And they recently actually kind of came out with an answer as to why they didn't do Lady Stoneheart, and their official reasoning, Dan and Dave anyway, was they thought that it might cheapen Jon's resurrection, since they already had a Beric resurrection on the show. And I can kind of understand that in a small way, but in another way, it's kind of just more foreshadowing for Jon, and kind of just sets up that he could come back that much more believable. But that was their official reasoning for why they didn't bring Lady Stoneheart back. They thought it would cheapen Jon's return, I guess. I don't know.
But not Beric Dondarrion.
Yeah. Lila says, I watched season 1 of Game of Thrones before I read the books, and I enjoyed it. Ned broke my heart, and I didn't believe it happened. I thought it was a dream. Yeah, and that's kind of where I was as well. I mean, because I've been a huge fan of the book series since long before the show started. So I was in that boat as well, where I could not wait for Game of Thrones to start. I remember when I first heard that they were adapting A Song of Ice and Fire, because this is something that they have been trying to adapt for a very long time. George has gotten many offers in the past to adapt his A Song of Ice and Fire series, but he turned each and every one of them down for some reason. For whatever reason, George just wasn't comfortable with the networks that tried to approach him to adapt A Song of Ice and Fire. Then for some reason, HBO came around. Whatever meeting that George had with Dan and Dave, George left that meeting impressed. We hear the famous tale that George asked Dan and Dave who Jon Snow's real mother is, real parentage is, and apparently they answered that question correctly, and that's what convinced George that they could handle this series, even though they had never directed TV ever before in their career. So it was a big risk. It was definitely a big risk handing the reins over to Dan and Dave, who were so inexperienced at that point. They had done a few screenwriting jobs on some Hollywood productions like X-Men Origins Wolverine and stuff like that, but they hadn't really helmed their own massive big budget project yet. So it was a big risk that HBO and George took. And I mean, I will give them credit where credit is due. They did do very good when they were adapting the source material. It's when the source material ran out that they really started to flounder in terms of kind of keeping that level of storytelling up without the source material to fall on. That's where they really started to falter. But I will at least give them credit. The first 4 seasons were beautifully adapted.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, it was going to be one of the most beloved series of all time, I think, right until they ran out of runway and then started doing their own thing. And plus, they had their eyes on the door anyway, because they were having the Star Wars trilogy.
They had their eyes on Star Wars.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is good, but man, if you get that Star Wars money,
it's different. That's a different paycheck level. Yeah, it's a different paycheck level. But unfortunately, they lost the Star Wars deal, and I wouldn't be too surprised if a big reason for that was the big backlash that they received from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they went from heroes to villains in the blink of an eye. But it's all, I don't feel one tiny bit bad for them. I mean, they deserved it. They had it coming. So, But yeah, I haven't seen such a precipitous fall of reputation. You know, you don't get to see that happen too often when somebody's writing. You know, that's the kind of thing you write into a story where, you know, your character is like, you know, on cloud nine. They're, you know, they got the world at their fingertips, and then it's all taken away from them, and that happened to them in real life, which is kind of wild. But I guess they landed on their feet.
Yeah, they kind of, you know, they're doing a three-body problem right now for Netflix. I haven't finished season 1 yet. I actually am a big fan of the three-body problem book trilogy, Death's End and Dark Forest. So those are really, really good books, but I haven't had a chance to actually watch all of Three Body Problem yet, so I can't really speak to how they're adapting that yet, but it seems to be getting some decent reviews. So
yeah, they'll find a way to kill it and defile the corpse, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see if they bounce back or if they fall again, I guess. But yeah, as Divine Chakra says, you know, they did kill it with the first 4 seasons, and we at least kind of, you know, have to give them credit for that, which I very well do. Still to this day, even though Game of Thrones ended on such a unfortunate note, I still very much look back on Game of Thrones with immense fondness. For me, I know I've said this a million times, but for me, I look at Game of Thrones and it's one of those things where the journey was just better than the destination.
Dude,
But I still love the first 4 or 5 seasons or so, and I still go back and watch them every once in a while too. I mean, that'll always be season 1 of Game of Thrones will always be one of my favorite seasons of television in history, right up there with Twilight Zone for me.
Yeah. It's one of those things, though, that, I mean, it is one of those things you had to be there. I mean, when it was coming out weekly and you're talking about it and
it was such an experience.
It was so cool. Yeah. Everybody's talking about it as a worldwide phenomenon. So you could be in the line at the DMV and somebody'd be wearing a Daenerys shirt or something, and you'd strike up a conversation, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now, here's a question I have for you.
Remember when Hodor, the big Hodor reveal? You had everybody running around holding open doors saying, Hodor, Hodor. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. And that was one of the better reveals towards the later seasons. I actually really enjoyed the Hodor reveal. Even though that did come directly from George, they still executed it pretty well on the show. Yeah. But what do you think about this? You think we will see the fall of King's Landing in this episode? I don't know. I don't think we're going to get that far, personally. I feel like
I think that's far.
I mean, we have seen that they have been kind of swapping some events here and there. I mean, they had the Blood and Cheese happen before Daemon takes Harrenhal, which is a little bit different in the books. Daemon takes Harrenhal long before Blood and Cheese happens. So they have shown that they will kind of swap events chronologically every once in a while. But for me, I have a tough time seeing them do the fall of King's Landing before the Gullet. I just feel like, the way that the story is set up in the book, and I know here I go, I'm trying not to compare it to the book, and here I go freaking 2 minutes later comparing it to the book. But just the way that it's kind of set up, the Gullet is kind of vital in terms of putting Rhaenyra in a certain mind state where she doesn't mind just going for it and taking King's Landing at that point. So having the fall of King's Landing happen before the Gullet, while it's certainly possible, I just don't think that's the way they're going to go. But who knows? I mean, again, that's one thing about the show that's been kind of a little bit exciting at times. And I mentioned that on one of my recent videos as well, where it's getting harder and harder to predict where they're going next. So it does kind of add a little extra layer of excitement, even for us book readers, where we can't just accurately predict what is coming next. So in one instance, it's a little bit exciting in that regard. But yeah, I have no clue. I don't think we will see the fall of King's Landing in this episode, but I could be wrong. What do you think? You think we'll see the fall?
I can't see how they could. I mean, I can't see because they've got so many things that they need to fit in. I think that might be part of the problem with some of the writing is they have a lot of stuff that they have to fit in. They have to get a lot of people in this place, that place, and the other place for these key set piece battles to take place. I felt that way with episode 4 with Rook's Rest. I was super hyped with number 1. Episode 1, then it kind of tailed off for 2 and 3. But you could pacify yourself by saying, okay, well, these people have to be moved to this place. The decision to move them have to be made. Yeah, so something banging is going to happen at 4. And thankfully, that did come true. 4 was awesome. I loved Rook's Rest.
Best episode of the season so far. Yeah. And not just because it was a great battle piece, but just because it was a really good episode with good dialogue, good storytelling, and like you mentioned, really good setup for the Battle of Rook's Rest. So yeah, that's been my favorite episode so far. Not just because it was a battle episode, just because it was, in my opinion, just the best structured episode.
Yeah, and I thought we'd
But I
get
guess
more. Honestly, I thought we'd get more between, with 5, 6, and 7, and then it was just a lot of talking. And I'm like, okay, well, so I was thinking something awesome is going to happen in episode 8. That's only a few hours away, and I am still holding. I'm keeping faith.
yeah,
It's
I'm
easy for
hoping
me to
it
get
ends off
swept
on a
away.
bang.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's easy to get swept away in cynicism, and but I'm gonna allow it to play out before I get mad. I'm gonna wait till there's something to
exactly.
be mad about. um but I hope it
Yeah,
is. I hope it does. I was really kind of, after episode, after Rook's Rest, then with episode 5 and 6, I was like, man, they have the key to making people happy. More dragons. Just put friggin' dragons in
yeah.
there. And then they put dragons sitting inside their homes in a cave. They might as well have been drinking coffee and discussing, it's like, discussing the news or something. It's like, get them out and killing people. I said dragons. Yes, you give me dragons, but no, I mean fighting, doing dragon stuff, not like just
Mhm.
lurking about. And
It did seem like the story kind of progressed pretty decently up until the first 4 episodes. Like we got to Rook's Rest in a pretty spectacular way. But yeah, since episode 4 and the Battle of Rook's Rest happened, from that point on, the story has been kind of progressing kind of slow, where really we only really got Dragonseed action from there on out. Yes, they have maneuvered some other pieces into play, so it hasn't been just wasted all filler episodes. They have been, maneuvering the Battle of the Red Fork into place. They've been setting up the Battle of the Gullet. But I have been getting a lot of similar comments to what you just said in my comment sections over the last few weeks, where they feel like the second half of the season is just a little bit slower and sloggier than the first 4 episodes, which is understandable. I mean, everybody's welcome to their opinions, and we welcome all opinions here on the channel.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing
We
is,
got
I mean, they already know they're getting a third season, so they actually can pull out all the stops. They can actually listen to what the audience is saying, what the
kind of like from
the fans.
between seasons 2 and 3.
Oh my gosh, yes. And we went crazy, and the strike did not help at all,
Yeah.
at least with From. But
Mhm.
in this case, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
They will listen, they will hear, whether they want to or not. Somebody, in the C-suite will tell them, look, we're going to open up the budget a little bit, and we're going to let you do a little more dragon
Get back to
CGI.
10 episode seasons. We need 10 episodes. This 8 episode thing just has to go. We got to get back to 10 episodes at least.
Yeah, so it's not too late.
Yeah.
It's not too late to right the ship, I think. I've said, I think after the way season 2 has gone through 7 episodes, I wanted to, that's why I was so crotchety about it being not a little bit underwhelming, is I wanted it to be great. I wanted it to be the greatest thing of all time. I want it to be everything that Game of Thrones could have been if it had been seen through to the end, the way the fans wanted it, in a very satisfying way, which didn't happen. And this one, I think it's kind of the way they're focusing on, the characters, and it is a lot more character driven. And, again, that's something that they don't have a roadmap for, because there was no dialogue in the books. They're making all this stuff up, but it's half like a CW, half like a soap opera. And it's like, oh man. So I think great is off the table, but I'm still hoping for pretty damn good. So, and I'm gonna carry that towards,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially with a lot of the like really kind of big events, seems like they're going to be coming in seasons 3 and 4. It looks like we got a lot of big events to look forward to in season 3 and 4, just based on all of the really big stuff that they're going to have to get through. Let me catch up a little bit here. We got some super chats and some membership chats. We got Dana Marie, who's been a member for 14 months. Wow, 14 months seems like only yesterday I found your channel, but now you are an awesome friend. Can't wait to talk From with you and catch up. Stay awesome. Yes, Dana, From is right around the corner, isn't it? And I really am so excited. And like you mentioned earlier, Ravener, the strike definitely kind of delayed From season 3. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that it played out this way, because if the strike hadn't happened, we probably would have gotten House of the Dragon and From season 3 right around the same time. And that would have just been a nightmare trying to cover both of those at once. So I'm kind of glad we're getting one after the other. But yeah, 14 months, Dana. Here we go. Season 3 is on the way. We got another 50 from Strega. Thank you so much. Sorry, Jem, the Discord link is already expired. Okay, I will throw a fresh one in the chat. Yeah, that's the thing with Discord. The links expire after like a week or so, and you have to kind of refresh the link before you post it into the chat. So I will throw another one in there, a fresh one. So if anybody wants to,
yeah, I'll set a permanent one that never expires. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, if
Let you
anybody
be the
wants to
host.
join me, appreciate it.
Yeah. Right on, brother.
But yeah, if anybody wants to join the Discord and come and hang out for the watch parties or everything else that we do in there, everybody is welcome, of course. Let's see what else we got. We got Romara for Romara 30 for $5. Thank you so much for the 5. I think for season 3, they'll hit the ground running. Rhaenyra will be riding high after the fall of King's Landing until the treason at Tumbleton. Oof, yes, the treason at Tumbleton. And that's one thing I've been very interested to see how the whole Tumbleton storyline is going to play out on the show. Just considering they've added some really great extra character development to both Ulf and even more importantly to Hugh the Hammer. Two of my favorite new characters. I really love Ulf and Hugh. And I was saying this on social media not long ago. I feel like this was the kind of one aspect that House of the Dragon was missing. You look back at Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones had some of these characters that were just absolutely hilarious and provided some really witty dialogue and some really good comedic relief. And I feel like House of the Dragon, that's the one thing that House of the Dragon was missing. But now that we have Ulf the White, I think Ulf is going to kind of fill a little bit of that role in terms of having some of those really kind of witty lines and some of those good comedic relief moments, like a Tyrion, like a Hound, like a Bronn. It definitely seems like Ulf could kind of fill a similar role on House of the Dragon. So I'm really glad that they added Ulf and Hugh, but I'm even more glad that they gave them some proper backstory and some proper character development to the point now where you see the character that they've set up in Hugh. He's incredibly honorable, nothing like he is in the book, and I think it's a great change. I actually love what they did with the character of Ulf compared to his book counterpart. So, but it's just making me wonder that much more. How is this Hugh going to go from that to that? So that's going to be very interesting to see when the Tumbleton thing comes around, just because of how honorable they've kind of set Hugh up to be on the show. It's going to be interesting to see if he does some kind of heel turn.
See, this is funny because you guys, we don't correspond or any. I mean, we don't correlate or like synchronize our opinions. I had the exact opposite take on Ulf, because I was like, I thought Ulf was going to go to Dragonstone as a result of something that happened in King's Landing. I thought, I think his daughter is dead, right? Yeah, I thought
Hugh left King's Landing because his daughter dead. Ulf went just because his friends kind of convinced him to.
Yeah, egged him on. Yeah, I saw that in the tavern. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Hugh. See, I thought something was going to happen. Maybe they would have gotten starved in a riot or something really very like traumatic or something would happen. I thought maybe a fire would start in both of his family. But then he's just fucking splitting. He's just dumping his wife. He's like, yeah, no, I gotta go. Sorry. And she's still around. I was like, oh, you're a dickhead, man.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that in one instance. And I mean, he did kind of abandon his wife. Yes, he did it for her in the end of the day to try and provide a better life for her. But at the end of the day, they just lost their daughter. If anything, his wife probably needs him now more than ever. So I can see that perspective. Yeah, definitely. I can definitely.
Yeah, that's what I took away from it. But yeah, I think you're exactly right on Ulf. I mean, he was written in as a drunkard, big time drunkard in the book, and his second home is the tavern. Probably his first home is the tavern in the show. Yeah. So I think that's a short putt to guess that character trait is going to carry on. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of, I mean, you have to lighten it up, man, because some of this gets so heavy. Yeah.
You need some comedic relief, especially when you get into some of these heavier dragon and ground battles. It's nice to have that one character in there that can provide some good kind of comedic relief, which is why I think a lot of people were really wanting Mushroom to be a little bit more prominent on the show, even though we did get Mushroom on the show, only a very quick little background shot in season 1. The dwarf that is banging the drum at Rhaenyra's wedding in season 1 was confirmed to be Mushroom, but I don't expect he'll have a serious role on the show. I wouldn't be surprised if we never see him again, actually. But it does seem like Ulf is going to be one of those characters that provides some nice comedic relief. And in terms of season 3 hitting the ground running, yeah, I definitely think we are heading for that. In terms of where season 2, I guess it depends on where exactly season 2 ends. But yeah, season 3 is probably going to hit the ground running. I do agree with you there. And thank you so much for the 5. We got Strager again for another 50. Thank you so much. I want to see more of Rhaenyra's rage in High Valyrian. Oh, okay. Interesting. And one thing I will say about the High Valyrian on House of the Dragon compared to Game of Thrones, it's the High Valyrian has been fleshed out way more on House of the Dragon. It didn't sound bad on Game of Thrones, but if you listen to Daenerys speaking High Valyrian, it just doesn't kind of sound as fluid as when you hear Daemon speaking it, and when you hear some of these House of the Dragon characters speaking it, like Aemon, for instance, in a previous episode, he was speaking High Valyrian to his brother Aegon during the council session. It just seems like the High Valyrian dialogue just flows a little bit better in House of the Dragon. Maybe it's just me, but maybe it's just my ears, but it seems like they flesh the language out a little bit more. But yeah, in terms of Rhaenyra's rage, we are going to see some rage from Rhaenyra after the Battle of the Gullet, 100%. Whether or not, I don't think we'll get the Gullet in this episode, but I do think we will get it pretty early on in season 3. And from that point on, you should see a different Rhaenyra in terms of her mindset, in terms of her being a little more willing to risk things that she wasn't willing to risk before the Battle of the Gullet. Try not to spoil too much here. But yeah, I think we will see a rage-filled Rhaenyra after the Battle of the Gullet for sure. For sure. Let's see what else we got. Got to go. Love y'all. Thanks for all of the fish. See you in the after show. Well, thank you so much, Misty, for joining. I might try and do an after show tonight. I know I don't usually do after shows on Sunday nights. It all depends on where I am after I watch the episode, but I might try and go live after the episode tonight. But if I don't, I will definitely be live tomorrow night at my normal time for our after show, for sure. For sure. But yeah, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Where do you guys think, I know we've asked this a lot, but I guess we can ask it again. Where do you guys think season 2 is going to end? Based on everything we've seen, based on everything they've set up, what do you think we will see this second season end? Don't like Hugh or Ulf. Adam seems more honorable. Adam does seem a little bit more honorable. I mean, I do like how they've kind of set up Hugh. Hugh does seem like he has, some degree of honor. But I do think Adam will be the most loyal out of the 3, for sure. For sure. Young Rhaenyra has the best High Valyrian easy. Yes, young Rhaenyra had really good Valyrian. That is right. Yes, young Millie Alcock, who played the younger version of Rhaenyra, she had some phenomenal High Valyrian. That's true. Very true. Yeah. I can see them changing who dies at the Battle of the Gullet. Now, that's a very interesting possibility as well, Admiral. I mean, just because something happens, as we said, one way in the books, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen the same way on the show. And we've seen that with Blood and Cheese and some other events. We've seen that with the faking of the death of Laenor in season 1. They're not afraid to change things every once in a while, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not against change if it makes the story progress a little better. But that's a possibility, Admiral. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Just because the character that we think is going to go during the Gullet, because it happens in the book, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen that same way on the show. So that is a good point. That is a good point.
One thing that I thought was super, super cool, and it was just kind of just a throwaway little feature, but you notice how King's Landing, everywhere, every fortified place has scorpions on the roof. And because dragons were a real and present danger in those times, by the time it got to Game of Thrones, it was almost like scorpions had to be almost rediscovered or reinvented, because dragons had been gone for so long that they, they weren't even a thing. It was kind of neat, but it's like every time a dragon flies over King's Landing, it's like scorpions. And they're aiming it, and they're trying to identify who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we do see that in those later seasons of Game of Thrones when Qyburn kind of whips up the scorpion for Cersei. It's one of those things that's kind of just introduced, like it hasn't been around in a long time. So that is a good point. And I guess it stands a pretty good reason why they haven't been around for a while. They haven't had to fight dragons for over 100 years, over 150 years up until that point. So it makes sense. Yeah. Another 50 from Strega. Thank you so much. It's okay, Jeremy. I already read the books. Thanks, though. Well, that is great. I try not to spoil too much. I mean, sometimes it's really hard to not discuss spoilers, especially when you're discussing what you think is going to be happening next on the show. I try to do my best, though. I do try to do my best. If I get into some heavily deep spoilery stuff, I will at least give a warning ahead of time for sure. For sure. Let's see what else we got. I'm very surprised there was no conversation before the sewing about what it will mean if they claim a dragon, some way to figure out their intentions and make it known they won't be legitimized. Yeah, I mean, the screening process the vetting process for allowing who and who won't claim a dragon was pretty interesting. I mean, Rhaenyra doesn't know any of these people. She has no idea if they're criminals, if they're good-natured, if they're honorable, or if they're just straight-up scumbags. So it's a big risk. I mean, that is a good point. It was a very big risk to kind of just bring these dragon seeds that you didn't know nothing about them, you have no idea what kind of people they are, and just saying, here, let's see if you can claim a dragon and be loyal to me afterwards. It's a big risk. It's a big risk.
Without even giving them any kind of instructions or anything. She was just like deuces and walks out.
Especially with the dragon keepers. The dragon keepers weren't having any of it. And that was probably one of my favorite episodes of that favorite scenes of that episode, was seeing the reverence that the dragon keepers have for the dragons, how they very much look at them like they're not just the playthings for men. I really enjoyed that scene. Actually, I'm going to play that clip because it's such a good scene.
Skurion Judra. Daldrizot andaligita. Vetetiri rudax. Ziris aldriza exio istos aor. Sesir boni daor.
Vasir? Jaihosa.
Si voskizi isi. Uepo valirio sete non toligor keso vihot montasmo isi. Polaro tim tritisit ninkiapot mentani sosi daor. Il voletir vaquejot rakilos daor.
Good job.
Yeah, I love that scene, man. I just loved that scene. Seeing the reverence that the dragon keepers have for the dragons and how much they really want to protect not only the dragons, but the legacy of Old Valyria. You hear the dragon keepers say the dragons are the last remnant of magic from Old Valyria in this sad world. They are not the plaything for the sports of men. I just love that dialogue. I love how it's in perfectly spoken High Valyrian. And if there's anything that I really want to see a little bit more of in season 3, it's to learn a little bit more about the Dragon Keeper Order. It seems like they have a whole established order of Dragon Keepers that have been around for a while. And hopefully we can learn a little bit more about them in season 3. I know time is very limited in these seasons. They can't really dive too deep into the Dragon Keepers. I totally understand that. But I would love to see a little bit more from them. I really like the Dragon Keeper scenes.
Yeah, and he was giving it to her too. It's like, wow, that is the queen, but and she had really, the thing is though, that's such a specific trade that she kind of just had to eat it. It's not like she could just, she can't hang them up on the ramparts like they were rat catchers or something. You have to, you have to play nice with the dragon keepers.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah, it's they're a good addition. They're definitely a good addition. I thought the season would have ended with Rhaenyra taking the throne, but there are too many wars that may occur. I will say it'd end with Jay being taken down or Ray's kids kidnapped. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I guess we're going to find out in less than 1 hour from now. We are going to find out exactly where it ends. Looks like we've got a couple more super chats. We got Strega for another 50. Thank you so much. I agree with you, Jeremy. High Valyrian and House of the Dragon is 100. And yeah, again, it just seems like the House of the Dragon and the Valyrian and House of the Dragon just seems a little more fluid, a little more fluent, just fleshed out a little bit more. Now, again, not that it sounded bad in Game of Thrones. It just sounds a little bit better in House of the Dragon, I would say. They fleshed it out a little better. We got $4.99 from Jackson Perez. Thank you so much for the $4.99. The show is unironically making Rhaenyra look extremely idiotic. So many naive decisions may make her turn hit harder. That's a good point. I mean, considering where Rhaenyra's character might end up going, yeah, maybe some of these decisions might come back to haunt her, especially where these dragon seeds are concerned in particular. It seems like that will definitely come back to haunt her in some way, shape, or form, depending on what they choose to adapt. But yeah, no, you make a good point, Jackson. The Rhaenyra has been making some questionable decisions that could hurt her in the long run. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they didn't really. I mean, they were really looking for the bloodline pedigree, and you would think that we were just left to assume that she did some basic tests of loyalty. When you take these dragons, you are going to be on my side, right? That kind of thing. That would be in the fine print.
Yeah, it's an incredibly huge leap of faith to just bring these dragon seeds on here that you've never met. You know nothing about them. Here, claim a dragon and be loyal to me.
Yeah, especially when one of the ones you're giving away is going to be the biggest one in your faction also.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The biggest dragon you have on your side in Vermithor. Very, very point. Very good point. Good stuff. Yeah, Sansa calls them Hollow Knights for a reason, says April May. I think in the show the Dragon Keepers will perish alongside the dragons they worship when the shepherd begins talking mad shit about the dragons. That is a very interesting theory, MK, and I am inclined to agree with you. I wouldn't be too surprised if we do see the Order of the Dragon Keepers come to an end in this series, with maybe potentially the dragons having the beginning of the end of them as well. In particular, like you mentioned, with the whole shepherd and the dragon and the whole shepherd storyline that will probably be coming in season 4, probably. Yes, I could definitely potentially see the Dragon Keepers doing their best to try and stop that from happening and maybe perishing along with some dragons. Maybe that's a big possibility. I like that.
Yeah. Like, and that's, I mean, that would be just a colossal set piece. I mean, if they adapt it, that'll be one that everybody's going to look forward to. That'll probably be the most climactic. It'll probably actually be better than Rook's Rest if they do it correctly. And I do remember from the book, they said because they were talking about rallying the true, who do we have at hand? I can't even remember which king was sitting the throne or queen was sitting the throne at the time, but they said, how many do we have? And they said 7 and 70. So I think there are 77 total dragon keepers, at least in the dragon pit. But it wasn't nearly enough to fend off the kind of crowds I think the shepherd was pulling at the time, which was in the thousands before it started dwindling, I think. So it'll be one of those things that'll be cool to see if it happens, if they do it, that kind of thing.
And how they do it.
That's a super good point, though. MKXD, absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
Is it MKXD or MK with a squinty smiley face? I'm not sure.
It's hard to tell. Hard to tell. But yeah, no, good stuff. No, MK knows his lore. MK knows his lore for sure. Inside the squared circle with King Judah, the men who face dragons daily with no Targaryen blood fear nothing. And it's really true at the end of the day. I mean, these dragon keepers have the most hazardous job in all of these 7 kingdoms. And I really love how just about every time we see one of the dragon keepers on screen, just about every single one of them are covered in some kind of nasty scar or nasty burn, just as a very, visual reference of just how dangerous their job is. Like I said in the past, I really hope they're getting some form of hazard pay. Because they're ballsy to face these dragons on a day-to-day basis, not being Targaryens particularly. So yeah, good point.
And we saw that with the Stefan Darkland scene. That one dude, I mean, when they issue you your suicide knife with your job, when you get your robes, you get your suicide knife in case you do end up getting
your suicide knife. Yeah, your dragon glass suicide knife. That's like the Westerosi version of your cyanide
pill. Yes.
Yeah. Because as April brings up, also those dragon keepers, they feel no pain, just like the Unsullied. Dude is on fire and stands there calm as fuck and slits his own throat. Damn, it was a crazy scene. Like I was very, I thought that was a very nice touch, and like you said, it does kind of just showcase the not only how much the dragon keepers kind of put their life on the line on a daily basis, but their lack of fear and their lack of maybe even feeling pain in some regards. Because that was a crazy scene. I mean, we see Seasmoke just lit up the platform in the dragon mount, and that one dragon keeper was like, nope, done, and just completely cut his own throat. Savage scene. Absolutely.
I was glad they added that. Yeah, I'm right there with you, though. I was glad that they added that little detail. Those little things, I mean, those are the things that give you hope, for the direction of the show, and that it's being handled well. And then they'll do something where they sit at a table for days doing nothing. It's like, oh man, come on. Yeah. But they did score big there. They scored big there. They scored big with Rhaenys. There are multiple, and even in the worst episodes that we've seen, there are so many just quality scenes, like individual scenes. Even if the episode sucks, there are scenes that you're like, man, if the whole thing could have been like that, it would have been awesome. There's always something to be positive about, because it seems like each episode it's like they spin a wheel and it lands on a different person each time, because there were a few episodes, or like a few scenes at least, where Aegon II he was like turning out to be like, okay, he was embracing the role of king. He was doing real good. His interaction with the Otto were super awesome. And you're like, wow, this guy's, this is pretty decent. And then, I think the very next episode was where he saw, not Damon, Aemond in the tavern. And he's like literally back to like school kid era, like kind of stuff, like pointing his finger, like, it's like
right back to child Aegon again, bullying his poor brother Aemond. So yeah, I mean, we have seen Aegon go through a little bit of those changes. At first, he doesn't even want to be king. Then he's getting coronated in the dragon pit, and he's seeing the crowd cheering on his name. He's got black fire in hand, the crown of Aegon the Conqueror, and you can totally see the change on his face. He went from not wanting this at all to reveling in it. So yeah, we have seen Aegon go through some interesting changes at the end of season 1 and in season 2. This is a very interesting one as well. Jason the Book was the one who fetched the Dragonseeds and said they would have the honor fighting beside the prince while promising them lordships. And yeah, we did see that was not a little bit, but kind of a big change from the show to the book. That was pretty interesting to see how Jace reacts to Rhaenyra bringing the Dragonseeds to Dragonstone. He's very much against it. I mean, yes, he was all for, Sir Steffan Darkling doing it, because he points out that Sir Steffan was a member of the Queen's Guard, and he was a royal of noble blood. But we see the reaction that Jace has to the Dragonseeds coming to Dragonstone, and I thought it was actually a pretty interesting change. And I thought it makes a little more sense and kind of lines up a little bit more with who Jace's character is, being that he knows he is a bastard himself. So I actually kind of enjoyed that little bit of change, seeing that very, how kind of disgusted Jace was about the Dragonseeds. He calls them mongrels, for crying out loud. And I think part of that anger is coming from a place of, these Dragonseeds are essentially reminding him of what he is at the end of the day, which is not a full-blood Targaryen. So I think Jace's some of his insecurities kind of came out in that moment. I imagine he's probably grown up his entire life, obviously knowing that Harwin Strong is his father. He knows that. He pretty much admits it, even when he's a kid. When he asks Rhaenyra, "Is Harwin Strong my father?" So yeah, I get the feeling the Dragonseed showing up on Dragonstone, it definitely kind of reminded Jace of who he is at the end of the day, and he was worried about it kind of ruining maybe his claim at the end of the day. He feels like if any old person can come around and claim a dragon, then what exactly is it that makes the Targaryens special at that point? So I understand like where Jace was coming from. I thought that was a pretty good change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of almost like pulling up the ladder behind you. Once you get there, we don't need any more bastards. I mean, he is a bastard, and he's like, well, we don't need any more of this around here. And like you said, it undermines his claim if just complete randos can claim a dragon as well. They want to keep it at least a little bit special, but that went out the window. I mean, of course, Rhaenyra was in that situation where you can't just have large and unclaimed dragons that could turn the tide of the battle, just unclaimed. Just having these tremendous assets out there and not being able to use them. She had to at least take that chance. So they went about it in a kind of a strange way, like her thought process and that kind of stuff. And mostly because of Mysaria. She's probably one of my least favorite characters, Mysaria. But as she came around with that idea and pouring through the books and trying to do that, where she did settle on Steffan Darkling, and then that kind of encouraged her. Well, after Alan got Seasmoke, or not Alan, Adam got Seasmoke. It was like, okay, it was neat to see that like light bulb in her head, that Eureka moment. So
yeah, now she knows it's possible. I mean, she knows, okay, and it did give her that kind of hope. As soon as she sees Adam on that beach, she goes, okay, maybe this is actually possible. And then she just goes full on committed to the Dragonseed storyline. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting. I thought they handled it pretty interesting on the show, and it was pretty good, I thought.
And I like Jace. I do like Jace. I like the empowered Jace. And I think that did kind of happen in the book. I think Rhaenyra was a little more either torn up about losing Luke, or she was up in her head quite a bit. And Jace did very much like he's doing in this thing, kind of like shuffled off the the chains of being a kid or not being taken seriously, and taking a more proactive role as a ruler. Even though he's still the prince, but I like empowered Jace. And I think the kid's doing good.
Yeah,
the actor.
I did. I like Jason that one episode that where he really kind of takes charge and kind of just goes for it without Rhaenyra's permission. Even he kind of just parts Dragonstone, goes to the twins, wins the patronage of House Frey. That's the kind of Jace that I like to see. Jace kind of getting in there and taking charge. And yeah, I like Jace. I think Jace is a really interesting character. But I like this as well. The Dragon Keepers alone scolded her in front of some random bastards. That was another form of diplomatic failure. It's the only thing Rhaenyra and Aegon have in common. They are both perceived as weak, and that's very good point. Public perception is everything in a world like Game of Thrones. We have seen how effective propaganda missions can really be in times like that. So yeah, your public image, a show of strength, is everything. And yes, if Rhaenyra is getting challenged by her servants at the end of the day and these Dragon Keepers, yes, that could potentially paint her in a little bit of a weaker light. So I understand that sentiment. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, that's super cool.
The workers are striking. The workers are on strike.
And the thing is, for somebody like Adam, it may not be that big of a deal because his goal is to get Corlys to claim, to acknowledge him. But for somebody, for guys like themselves, like Hugh, like the view of weakness, like a monarch showing weakness, or to him. Okay, let me compose my thoughts. For somebody like Hugh, especially, maybe not so much Ulf, but to an extent also, yes. But to see essentially an employee like the Dragon Keepers really dress down the Queen publicly, that was a very good point.
And them get away with it.
Yeah,
them get away with it with them facing kind of no repercussion for it. Yeah, it could paint Rhaenyra in a little bit of a weaker light, and maybe paint her as a not as efficient leader as they may be expected. I mean, you expect your subjects to be loyal to you, and if your subjects are creating a workers' union strike, yeah, it doesn't look the best on your leadership capabilities. So yeah, we could see that affect her for definitely.
Yeah, and he saw that happen. So when it's not like he's going to allow her to crack the whip on him if he's already witnessed some other randos just dip out on her.
Yeah. So. We'll see if that could kind of come back and bite her in a certain case. It might. We got Leo V for another $5. Thank you so much, Leo, for the $5. What do y'all think is the Oscar award within scene of season 2? Jeremy or Lord Ravener? For me, Baela saying "Fire and Blood" or Rhaenyra taming Vermithor. Oof. One of the most Oscar award-winning scenes in season 2. Huh. Dang.
Don't do this.
The Baela scene that you did mention, I would definitely put that up there in terms of one of the more standout scenes. Like, seeing Baela in that dialogue she has with Corlys in terms of her saying, Driftmark must pass to Salt and Sea. I'm fire and blood. Absolutely phenomenal line. One of the best lines in the series. But in terms of one that would be like an award-winning scene, I don't know. I mean, season 1, there are some certain scenes that kind of just pop out right off the bat in terms of just absolutely phenomenal scenes that I'll never forget. Like Paddy Constantine in episode 8 of season 1 in terms of his triumphant entrance into the throne room, and the beautiful speech he gives in that dinner later on in the episode when he's trying one last time to bring his broken family back together. Those are the scenes that I kind of really remember a long ways after. But in terms of season 2, I gotta be honest, I haven't really seen that one scene that kind of sticks out for me like that. I mean, maybe it'll come in this finale, but in terms of having that one like award-winning scene like that Viserys scene in season 1, I haven't really had a single scene that kind of stuck out for me like that so far in season 2, to be honest. What about you, Raven?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Leo's he put his finger right on it. That Baela Fire and Blood, that was the mic drop. That was a mic drop scene of the episode of the season. The one thing I really liked, though, a lot of it was I really liked Rhaenys during Rook's rest. She had, especially after Sunfire was already down, she had an opening.
She could have left.
Meleys could have outrun Vhagar.
Easily.
She had that look, and she saw it. She saw her opening and turned around, and Meleys attacked, and it was like, oh,
I'm finishing this.
Fuck yeah!
And then this right now. That's a good point. That might be the one.
Yeah,
that might be the one, Ravener. You bring up a really good point. And speaking of that being a phenomenal scene, here it is.
Angos Velis.
Great scene. Just such a great scene. Seeing Rhaenys just kind of go for broke, like you guys said in the chat, and you, Ravener, as well. She could have easily escaped. She could have gone right back to Dragonstone. Vhagar never would have caught her, but she says, "No, I'm a Targaryen. Let's finish this now." And she turned right around and just fucking went for it. So yeah, that might be the standout scene, actually, now that you mention it, Rave. Especially the phenomenal score that goes along with that scene. Some of the best scores, some of the best music we've seen in season 2 happens during the Battle of Rooks Rest. So yeah, that might be it. That might be the one. That might be the standout for me. Good call. Very good call.
Thank you.
And great question as well. And I guess I would love to ask you guys in the chat that as well. Is there one scene that sticks out to you guys in season 2? When you look at season 2 as a whole, is there one scene that sticks out in particular that you really loved, maybe more than some of the other scenes? What scene stood out to you guys? Definitely let me know in the chat. Definitely let me know.
And there's a lot with, Aegon. There's a lot with Otto. There's a lot with Larys. I mean, yeah, let's hear what you guys... Did any of those scenes pop up? Yeah.
Yes, it's funny that you mentioned it. See, I need to really go back and think on this harder, because now that you mention Otto, yes, there's a really, really good Otto scene between Otto and Aegon, when Aegon is essentially dismissing him as hand. Otto's dialogue in that fucking scene was so good, just so good. That's why I've been missing Otto for the rest of the season. I really feel like season 2 has kind of missed a beat and missed a few steps not having Otto on screen for the rest of these episodes. He's one of the best actors on the show at this point. So yeah, I'm missing Rhys. Bring back Rhys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, great choices, guys. Yeah. Great choices.
Rhaegar Targaryen says blood and cheese. Man, if they'd have put in that line, if they'd have put in Maelor and the rest of it, I think they could have done a lot with blood and cheese.
I enjoyed what they did, but I do feel like blood and cheese could have been just a little bit better. And yes, like you said, Gravener, that one line in particular really makes blood and cheese.
When Rhaenyra heard of her son's death, she collapsed. She considered ending the war right then, until a raven arrived from her husband, Daemon. Her son would be avenged. Whispers slithered through the taverns and back alleys of Flea Bottom. 2 men were found. One was a former gold cloak, the other a rat catcher in the Red Keep who knew all its secrets. History remembers them only as blood and cheese. One night, Queen Helena entered the royal apartments with her daughter and 2 sons to put them to bed. Without warning, Blood and Cheese burst in, daggers in hand. They told her that a debt was owed. A son for a son. Blood and Cheese demanded she choose which son would be ripped from her forever. Queen Helena pleaded with the men to kill her instead, but they refused. Weeping, Helena named her younger son, Maelor. Perhaps she thought the boy was too young to understand. Or perhaps because the older boy was King Aegon's firstborn son and heir. You hear that, little boy? Cheese whispered to the younger son. Your mama wants you dead. Then blood struck off the older boy's head with a single blow. When the guards burst in, they found Queen Helena still screaming, clasping her dead son's body to her, mad with grief. The blood of their children transformed a dynastic dispute into a war of annihilation. The grief and rage of losing a child could burn down the world. Either Aegon or Rhaenyra could live at the end, but not both.
But not both. But yeah, that one freaking line, you hear that, boy? Your mama wants you dead. I was so disappointed they didn't put that line in the show. That is such an iconic line. And I do feel like the scene would have been a little bit better. Maybe that's just the book purist in me. But yeah, it would have been cool to see that line in there for sure. For sure. Yeah, can't wait to hear GRRM's take on Blood and Cheese. Well, he hasn't really full out come out and said anything specific, but we did hear him kind of label Maelor, #Maelor the Missing. So that, you read between the lines, that definitely tells you a little bit of what George was thinking. I think George was hoping Maelor would be in that scene as well. But yeah, it was an interesting adaptation. I mean, it's such a tough thing to adapt, an event like Blood and Cheese. I feel like they did as well as they could have. It's just one of those things that it could have been set up a little bit better. We have really no connection to Helena and the children. We've barely seen them on the show. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum on the streams, but that's why the Red Wedding hits so hard, because of who it happens to. Robb Stark, Catelyn Stark, Robb's wife, people that we had been spending 2-3 seasons with up until that point and were main characters. So the emotional attachment to these characters was very prevalent. So when Robb dies, there's a huge emotional response to it. Blood and Cheese, just as tragic as Blood and Cheese was, and it is super tragic anytime you see something happen to any kind of child, it was never going to have the impact that the Red Wedding was going to have, just because we didn't spend enough time with these characters to really form that connection between the audience and them. But it was still, I think they did as well as they could with what they had. But could have been done a little bit better. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, and the thing is, they were starting episode 1 with that, episode 1 of season 2 with that. I mean, they essentially had to remind everybody who Jaehaerys was, and with the scene in the small council room and whatnot. People didn't really know. They tried. I mean, they tried to kind of show him, kind of tried to show the audience, Jaehaerys before it's set up. They tried to set it up, but for me, it's just one of those things that could have been fleshed out a little bit more. If Blood and Cheese would have happened on episode 2 or 3 instead of 1, they could have kind of fleshed it out a little bit more. And again, that kind of just goes back to, if they had 10 episodes instead of 8, they could have fleshed out some of these things a little bit more, like the Cregan Stark thing that I've heard a lot of people definitely wanted a little bit more Cregan Stark, myself included. But yeah, 8 episodes, I think, hindered them in some certain regards. So hopefully they return to 10 in season 3. And some of their decisions, some of the decisions where we know that their screen time, their runtime is dear, very dear. So, but they spend it on some shit that they should not be doing it. I mean, we're seeing it with Alicent, Lady of the Lake. We're seeing it with Alicent and all the Crispy Cole scenes and whatnot. They could have put Alicent. I mean, well, we got Alicent a bone in Crispy Cole after, when Helena went downstairs. They could have played it straight, but they were too busy trying to make Alicent look bad, I think, and that might be a product of having multiple writers over the season. You're not getting a consistent characterization of a character. Maybe one writer hates Alicent, maybe one writer doesn't hate her so much, but she should have been doing the role of grandma. Helena should have been taking Jaehaerys and Jaehaera, even if Maelor's not there, up to the tower to be read to by their grandma Alicent, and then Alicent would have been present for Blood and Cheese as well. And that's another element that was so powerful about that scene in the book is she was bound. All that stuff is happening. So I think that was a big mistake where they chose to not spend the screen time with that scene, which could have been and again, HBO has to be judicious about how they portray these things, because I know you guys were very into the squelching sounds of it was horrific.
The sounds were horrific. That was one thing that that was definitely that when it came to the show's version of Blood and Cheese, that was the thing that I kind of went away remembering the most. Not the scene itself, but the freaking sound, man. The audio of blood and cheese cutting off this poor kid's head. And if you were one of the few who actually watched the episode with subtitles on, even the subtitles said slicing flesh and bones. It was so graphic, the sound. And that stuck with me. Like I heard that sound for like days later of that poor fucking kid's head getting cut off. It was very gruesome.
Yeah, and that is one
Very
thing
gruesome.
that was completely different than the book, because Blood was trained as a butcher, so it was like one stroke in the book. Yeah,
one stroke. Yeah, much quicker and much cleaner, and nowhere near as messy, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, it's it was an interesting adaptation. I like what they did. I just think it could have been handled a little bit differently, but that's just my opinion. Everybody is, of course, welcome to their opinions. If you love Blood and Cheese, I am so glad you loved it. I didn't. Hate it. I certainly didn't hate it.
Yeah, and I mean, if any scene was going to hit home, that one would be the one too. Yeah, so it ain't nothing against you if you like that one for sure.
Absolutely not. It was a gnarly scene either way for sure. We got another 10. I can't help but wonder if Hugh's wife mentioning her brother at Tumbleton is that somehow connected with Hugh's turn. Yes. Will she be killed by the Black Forces causing Hugh's turn? That would be tragic. And honestly, I think that's exactly what was going to happen. We actually touched on this last week, I believe it was. And that was some of the consensus that we were coming to. It seems like they are very specifically setting up that obviously his wife has connections to Tumbleton. So yes, I would not be surprised that when Hugh went to Dragonstone to try and become a dragon rider, the wife probably went to Tumbleton maybe right around that same time. And I do get the feeling that that could play a vital role in Hugh end up doing what he does later at Tumbleton if his wife ends up becoming a kind of casualty, an innocent bystander that gets caught up in the conflict. Yes, I 100% agree with you. I definitely think that could be a big factor in Hugh's turn. Definitely. I like that. I like that.
Yep. That might be why she stays alive. Yeah, that's maybe why she's alive in King's Landing still. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I won't fight you. I won't fight you on that one. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, I think they're setting up that Tumbleton connection for a very specific reason in terms of Hugh's wife having family in Tumbleton. That's going to come into play, definitely. We got another 50. Everyone equals Dracarys. Rhaenys equals Angos Meleys. Yes, and that's one thing that they really wanted to do very specifically for the Battle of Rooks Rest. They wanted to showcase the difference in dragon combat strategy, whereas we see Aegon and Aemond kind of always going for Dracarys, always looking to burn and cause maximum damage. But if you look at the attacks that Rhaenys does, it's much more accurate, much more deliberate. We barely see Meleys use any fire in any of the dragon combat. It's pretty much all straight, direct attacks with her claws and other parts. And that was one thing they talk about in the behind the scenes for that episode. They really wanted to showcase, two totally different approaches to dragon combat in terms of Aegon and Aemond being, a little bit younger, a little bit more overzealous, again, trying to cause maximum damage, whereas Rhaenys was much more kind of cerebral and deliberate with her attacks, not always just yelling Dracarys, but yelling Angos Meleys, which is just simply attack. So yes, there is a very good distinction there in terms of how they portrayed the difference in approach to dragon combat. And I appreciated that. I thought that was a good, interesting kind of tidbit they did. I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed that. And we also got 5 gifted memberships from Kiwi Skirt, the mod extraordinaire. Thank you so much, Kiwi, for the gift of the 5 memberships. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 memberships. Looks like Sci-Fi Fantasy is now a member. Dr. Deb is now a member. Miss T is now a member. Aldous is now a member, and D-Strand is also now a member. Welcome one, welcome all. So glad to have each and every one of you. Feel free to use any of the numerous custom emojis we have down there available to all members. And thank you so much, Kiwi, for the gifted 5 memberships. And that definitely deserves some glitter. Glitter bomb for Kiwi. Glitter bomb for Kiwi.
Yeah, the Ice and Fire fans do not like the whoa.
It's a little too loud. It's a little too loud. And if nothing else, I always try to accommodate the chat, for sure. I try my best. I love hearing from you guys. I genuinely love hearing your guys' takes. We had another $4.99 from Jackson Perez. Thank you so much for the $4.99. It would have been funny if they did the theory with Larry's faking his leg and actually being cheese. Oh, that would be, I mean, like the Westerosi version of Kaiser Soze. Yeah, that would have been kind of cool.
My God.
It would have been kind of funny, you know, if we find out that Larry's has just been faking it this whole time and he's really completely fine. Total Kaiser Soze move. And for anyone who doesn't know the Kaiser Soze reference, watch a movie called The Usual Suspects. There's a character in that movie who has a similar limp to Larry's, and you think he's this kind of just incompetent putz. And then towards the end of the episode, you find out that he's actually the freaking mastermind of everything, and his limp was fake the whole time. So yeah, it would be a total Kaiser Soze move for sure.
Yeah, the Grand Maester did that too, kind of, in Game of Thrones, right?
Game of Thrones, yes. Yeah, Grand Maester did that to a T, where he kind of portrayed himself as being this old, feeble man every time he was in public. Yet we see him in his room when he's, you know, went right after his whores leave, and he's jumping around, he's stretching and all that. And I love how there's one scene in season 2 of Game of Thrones that was unfortunately deleted. It's a deleted scene that didn't make the original cut. But there's one scene in season 2 between Grand Maester and Tywin Lannister where Tywin completely just calls him out. He's like, are you going to keep this farce up? Apparently, Tywin has been seeing right through it for years. Tywin knows exactly what Grand Maester is doing, and he calls him out on it. And Grand Maester kind of gives him his reasoning for why he does that. Talking about, you know, I don't want to be the tallest flower in the garden. I just want to remain in the garden. So that's kind of his way of kind of flying under the radar and perceiving himself to others that he's not a threat. But yeah, Tywin completely calls him out on that in season 2 of Game of Thrones. I'm so mad that scene got cut. Really good scene.
Man. Yeah, that would have been funny. Yeah, that would have been so satisfying to see.
Yeah, it would have been good. But yeah, no, in terms of Larry's faking his leg and like actually being cheese, that would have been crazy. That would have been absolutely nuts. But it would have been, again, it would have been kind of funny just to see that kind of Kaiser Soze heel turn real quick. Would have been funny. Definitely would have been funny. Good stuff. Good stuff indeed. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Admiral Wackass has become a new member. Thank you so much, Admiral Wackass. Very much appreciate that, my friend. Welcome to the channel. Admiral is a longtime friend of the channel.
Absolutely.
Always good to see you in the chat, my friend. Always good to see my boy Admiral. Always good to see my boy Admiral. That definitely deserves some glitter. Let me pop some glitter out for Admiral. Hell yes. Hell yes. Thank you, my friend, for becoming a member. I very, very much appreciate it. Admiral's been here since even before this channel was a Song of Ice and Fire channel. Back when this channel first started, it was kind of mostly geared towards me promoting some of my independent comic book creator friends. I have a lot of friends in the comic book industry. So that's pretty much how this show started. It was kind of a comic book focused channel at first, but A Song of Ice and Fire has always been my main passion. I always meant to turn this channel into A Song of Ice and Fire channel, which we eventually did. I pivoted away from the comics and kind of into this more. But yeah, Admiral, you're the man, bro. You've been here since the beginning, and definitely a friend. Definitely one I would consider a friend. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Crazy. Yeah, man. It's been a wild ride. I mean, like, yeah, Dana said she'd been in for 14 months. I'm not even sure how long I've been in. I remember the 1K giveaway. Number one, yeah, I was the first one, and that's one thing, guys, man. I've always been a believer, man. Jeremy's the real deal. I like his prepared content.
Oh, stop it! I'm nobody. I'm nobody. I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan like everybody else. I am nobody. But no, the support has been overwhelming. I can't thank everybody enough. And yeah, like you said, it does kind of almost feel like it was just yesterday we were doing our 1,000 subscriber giveaway, and here we are now, just crossed 21, I believe. So yeah, I can't thank everybody enough. Yeah, you guys, do the woe. Okay, I will do a woe.
Okay, headphones up.
You guys want a woe, you're gonna get a woe. Everyone, cover your ears if you do have headphones on, because the woe is loud. That's just what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get a quieter woe, and I will bring back the woe. By the time we are covering from season 3 here on the channel, the woe will be back in full effect, and it'll be a little bit quieter because I know there have been some complaints. And again, I do try to accommodate the chat. So cover your ears, everybody. A woe is on the way for all. Whoa! Yeah, people like the woe, and I understand it. The woe is fun. The woe is fun. So thank you guys, very much appreciate that. But holy cow, I look up and it looks like we are less than 20 minutes away now from the finale, guys. We are less than 20 minutes away from season 2, episode 8, hitting our screens. Any chance of lives during the wait for season 3? I'm gonna miss y'all. Absolutely. I will definitely continuing to, not only are we going to be covering From extensively, and again, I highly recommend all of you go out there and check out the TV series From, just FROM. It's on MGM Plus. It's also available on Amazon Prime. And if you're in the UK, it's on Netflix as well. That will be the next big show that we're covering here on the channel. And I promise you, if you guys do give that show a chance, you will love it. It is, in my opinion, it's the best show that is currently running, with House of the Dragon being a close second. I think From is even a little better than House of the Dragon, just because it doesn't have source material. It's a completely new and original story that has so many interesting aspects in it. So if you want to check out From, I would highly recommend doing that. We are going to be covering everything From starting September 22nd when season 3 starts. But we are definitely going to continue doing A Song of Ice and Fire streams on the off season as well, whether it's talking about season 3 predictions for House of the Dragon, whether it's covering some book stuff. We will definitely continue to do some A Song of Ice and Fire streams in the off season, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. Divine Chakra says, what do you think about Ryan saying some scenes are in the show because they wouldn't have been recorded in historical accounts, like Rhaenyra and Alicent's meeting in season 3? I did see that recently, and I mean, my response to that is I feel like there's no way that scene ever would have been recorded in the books, because it never would have been in the books. And that's the big difference between Rhaenyra and Alicent's relationship in the show and in the book. In the book, they hate each other. They were never friends in the book. And there's a much kind of bigger age difference between the two in the book as well. But in the book, Alicent is kind of always the evil stepmother in Rhaenyra's eyes. They're never friends. They don't start off as friends and then become enemies later. Alicent and Rhaenyra hate each other from the very start in the books. So in terms of that meeting between Alicent and Rhaenyra not being recorded in the books, yeah, it's not recorded in the books because that's something that just never would have happened, because they hate each other. Rhaenyra wouldn't have risked sneaking into King's Landing to go meet with Alicent. She knows she would have gotten captured. Like, book Alicent would have captured Rhaenyra in a heartbeat. She would have alerted the guards the second she realized that was Rhaenyra. So for Ryan to say that that's why that wasn't recorded in the books, I think that's just him trying to explain why he made that decision on the show. But just in my opinion, that would have never been recorded in the books, because that never would have happened in the books, because they hate each other right from the beginning. So Rhaenyra never would have had cause to reach out to her. So I think that's a little bit of a difference, but I understand him trying to explain it, at least.
I think it's just BS. I think he could have just said, because I wrote it that way, but he's trying to apply some logic to it. But yeah, I don't think there's anything to it. It's just like when Alicent said that the scene she got, I think, was one of the outdoor scenes that they film in Spain, in Caceres, Spain. It might have been the one where she got hit with the fish, the running away scene. I don't think it was a Sept scene. But she was sick of being in the castle, and she said she wanted a vacation in Caceres. So she asked, and then it was up to the writers to kind of write her in to a scene where she was in Spain. So she got to get out of the musty castle and go down to Spain for a little bit. And I think that was about half. That's one of those like half joke things, but not real, joking, not joking kind of things. So
yeah. It's one of those things that's it's a show change. I actually didn't mind that scene personally. I know that I remember when that scene first came out, it actually came under a lot of criticism, at least here in my comment sections. I can't really speak to the entire fandom, but at least in my comment sections, that scene came under a lot of scrutiny. I actually kind of enjoyed the scene just because of the implication that scene has going forward, in terms of Alicent finally being confronted with the fact that she misinterpreted Viserys' vision, Viserys' last words. So Alicent now has to kind of go forward with that kind of seed of doubt in the back of her brain the whole time, wondering, holy crap, did I severely mess up? And then for Rhaenyra, it's kind of confirmation for Rhaenyra that Viserys didn't cast her aside in those final hours. Because even in the back of Rhaenyra's head, I have to imagine there was probably at least a small part of her that thought, what if Alicent's telling the truth? What if Viserys did choose Aegon in those final hours? And for Rhaenyra, it was getting that confirmation that no, my father never threw me aside. So I definitely understand what they were trying to do with that scene. But yeah, for some reason, that scene came under a lot of scrutiny, which is totally okay. I mean, again, all opinions are welcome here.
Yeah, I kind of, I mean, my initial take on it, I like your take on it, that it was vindication for Rhaenyra. I did think it was corny, though. I mean, that Alicent was just like, you know, she just kind of, when Rhaenyra told her, like, oh no, that's the Song of Ice and Fire, that's on the dagger. And it was just, and I think I said it at the time too. It was just like womp womp, you know, there was the womp womp moment where Alicent was like, oh shit, you know, I was completely wrong. But the thing is, Alicent was in a different position because it's not like she could backtrack on it, whether she was wrong or right. She's got to go, you know, her son's on the throne. She's got to go full speed ahead.
It's too late now. Yeah. And that scene definitely served for Rhaenyra to realize that, okay, peace just isn't an option. I mean, I think that's why they kind of threw that scene in there. It seems like Rhaenyra just needed that confirmation to know that peace wasn't an option before she started sending the dragons into combat. So it kind of served for confirmation in that sense as well, in terms of Rhaenyra knowing that, okay, there's no going back. War is the only option. I need to win my claim or I'm going to die. And that was kind of her coming to that realization in that scene. So I get what they were trying to do with that scene. And again, I didn't really have a problem with it, but totally cool if not everybody liked it. That is totally fine.
But I mean, that was one where oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I saw it looks like someone saying, I have Prime, I'll look for it. Awesome, Super Dave. Awesome. I promise you, anybody who checks out From, you will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. The first 5 minutes of the very first episode literally pulls you right in, and it just never lets up. Season 1 is so freaking good. And the first 5 minutes really kind of showcase the stakes of the show, just that nobody is safe. So I do think you guys will like From if you give it a chance. For sure.
It's one of those shows with a microscopic budget, with a, you know, it started out on a microscopic network, but man, it was so satisfying. And the most recent one that I could think of, I showed Kiwi, I showed some of the people in the Discord, the booth at the end. There's some of these shows that you just don't expect. They're very small in scale. They're very small in scope. From is all in this one little town. So it's not like they have to do a whole lot, like going around outside and whatnot, but man, they get a lot of mileage, and the acting is phenomenal. Jeremy, the From is probably one of the safest recommendation bets that you can do. Almost nobody's, I mean, almost everybody who it's been recommended to has become not just, you know, like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, they become rabid fans very easily in this show. So
it's a worthy show to check out. And speaking of worthy shows to check out, I am getting messages, which I am actually confirming right now. Yes, it looks like the first teaser for Dunk and Egg, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, was just released, and I'm looking at it right now. It is looks pretty epic. It looks pretty epic. I can at least pull up these screenshots so we can take a look at it. Let me see this. Let's see here. Wow, this is kind of an odd time for them to release the Dunk and Egg teaser. I was definitely expecting them to release something after House of the Dragon ended. But for them to release this, like, literally 10 minutes before the finale, kind of weird timing, but hey, I'm all for it. I am all for it. It looks like we are getting our first looks at Dunk and Egg and exactly what they will look like in the show. And holy cow, Egg looks perfect. Egg looks freaking perfect. Let me pull this up here and we will take a look, ladies and gents. Wow. Holy cow. Now, Dunk, I feel like Dunk looks good, but my one small criticism with Dunk is I wish they would have given Dunk his patented long hair. Dunk has kind of long hair in the book, and they have given him short hair on the show. I know it's probably a nitpick on my part. Maybe that's just a small nitpick, but it still looks good. Dunk does still look good. But yeah, let's check this out. Here is our first look at Egg from Dunk and Egg in the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Wow. Okay, here we go. Now this is great. This is exactly what I would expect a live-action Egg to look like. And I was so pumped when I heard that Dexter Sol Ansel landed the role. They put out a video showing his reaction to when he received the news that he did become Egg. And the kid was so overjoyed. And this kid has so much personality to him. I really think he's going to chew this role up. I think he's going to be great. I think people are going to love this kid when this show comes around. He just seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders, a great personality, and he seems incredibly smart for his age, too. So, yes, I'm super glad that Dexter Soul Ansel got the role as Egg, and he looks good. Looks good, I must say. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And here we have Dunk. Sir Dunk the Lunk. Dunk the Lunk. Sir Duncan the Tall. If it'll ever freaking load. There we go. Okay. I can get behind this. I can get behind this for sure. This doesn't look bad. This does not look bad. Again, I do kind of wish he had his patented long hair, but everything else just screams Dunk. Like this is a good live action Dunk, and the physicality of the actor that they cast to play Dunk is perfect. This dude is a freaking skyscraper. He's huge, and that of course is one of the main traits of Dunk in the book. He's absolutely massive. So yeah, this looks good. This looks good. What do you? Let me know, chat. What are your first reactions to seeing Dunk and Egg? Do you like what you're seeing, Ravener? Do you like what you're seeing?
I think so, yeah. And I mean, Egg looks good. I think Dunk looks good. I wonder if, maybe his hair will grow out, as he gets spend a little more time on the road.
It very well could. Yeah, very well could. Yeah. So I like it. I like it. Let's see if we can take a look at the. I don't know if I can play the teaser trailer just because my internet is complete shite. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if we can get a little bit of dialogue. See if we can hear a little bit. Let's go full screen here. Let's see if this will play.
Yeah. And while Kiwi is getting the watch party ready in the Discord. So.
You and I? I'm Sir Duncan the Tall. You and I? I'm Sir Duncan the Tall.
Okay.
You and I?
I like this.
I'm Sir Duncan the Tall.
Yes! Bring it on. Yes, guys, we have Dunk and Egg, new series coming 2025. And I do get the feeling we'll probably get it pretty early in 2025, maybe by around spring, maybe summer, the latest. But this is great news. This is awesome. Definitely a little bit surprising that they chose to kind of drop it right before this next episode, but I am all for it. I cannot wait for Dunk and Egg to come around. Of course, we are going to be covering this show extensively here on the channel. So if nothing else, it looks like we are going to have something to look forward to in between seasons 2 and 3 of House of the Dragon. Next year, we have Dunk and Egg hitting our screens. Hell yes, I am all for it. Bring it on. Bring on Dunk the Lunk. Bring on Dunk the Lunk. And yeah, Egg looks great. Egg looks great. But thank you guys for giving me the heads up about that. I didn't notice it while I was live. But great stuff. It's nice to get a quick little teaser trailer of what Dunk and Egg in the world might look like. And it looks every bit as great as I was hoping it would. Yeah, there we go, guys. Dunk and Egg is coming. Dunk and Egg is coming. And speaking of things that are coming, we are 5 minutes away from the finale. So we are going to get ready to close it down now. But I just cannot thank each and every one of you. You guys have been so supportive throughout this season of House of the Dragon. It really means the world to me. I just cannot thank each and every one of you enough for all of the kind thoughts, the kind words, and all of the support you guys have shown us. And like I said, I will definitely continue to go live in the off season as well. We will be covering From very extensively here on the channel. So I do highly recommend people getting out there, checking out From, and coming and hanging out with us for that. We have a great From community here that has been kind of cultivating since season 1. Awesome people. So I highly recommend you guys check out From and come and hang out with us for that. But I will definitely still continue to do a Song of Ice and Fire streams on the off season while we get ready for Dunk and Egg to come, and while we get ready for season 3 of House of the Dragon to eventually come as well. The show will continue. But that is going to do it for us tonight. Again, big thank you to each and every one of you, and a huge thank you to all of my awesome co-hosts who have been helping me out all year. Ravener, Kayla, Snuggy, Aldous. You guys know them. You guys love them. Can't thank you all enough. And thank you for joining me tonight, my friend.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure. And I mean, I guess if there's a time to do the Sunday pre-show, I mean, if there's one episode that I do it for, I was glad to do it for this one. I'm going to be in the Discord with the watch party momentarily. So get your drinks, get everything, get yourself settled in, and we'll be enjoying this episode right alongside you guys. And then we'll be here again tomorrow for the after show. So awesome.
For the after show.
The after show.
The after show. Yeah. Again, I'm gonna, if I have time, I might try and go live tonight, but I can't 100% promise that. So I don't want to say I'm gonna go live and then I'm not able to. If I can potentially go live tonight after the show, it'll probably be around 11 Eastern. So I will try and do that if I can tonight. And obviously, if I do, you guys will hopefully get a notification for the live stream when it goes out. But if not, as Ravener said, we will definitely be live tomorrow night for our live after show as we dive into everything this finale is about to throw at us. And yes, Ravener, if you can do me one small favor, if you can throw the Discord link in the chat one last time. Anybody who wants to come and hang out for the watch party, we will be watching the final episode in our Discord. So if you want to come and join us for the watch party, you guys are more than welcome. We'll probably be starting it at probably 5-10 minutes after 9. So you guys have a few minutes to, as Ravener said, get your drinks ready, get your cannabis ready if that is your thing. I am a heavy cannabis enthusiast. We are pro cannabis on this channel. I will be getting my cannabis ready in particular. So yeah, get out there, get your drinks, get your snacks, get your cannabis, get ready, hop into the Discord and come and hang out with us for the season 2 finale watch party. And usually we stay in the Discord afterwards and discuss the episode amongst us. So we'd love to have you guys in there hanging out with us. Everybody is welcome, of course. And here we go, guys. The finale is 2 minutes away. So again, big thank you to each and every one of you for all the support you guys have shown us all year. And as always, stay safe out there, ladies and gentlemen. Stay kind to one another. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks. And I will see you on the next one.
Gods. Kings. Fire. And blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.